Hey everybody, it's Kara Williams with Williams Immigration. I'm back for another live this evening. Tonight I want to talk to you about family-based cases, specifically marriage-based green cards. And we'll answer some of your questions in a very general fashion. As you know, those of you that tune in often, I don't and can't answer questions on specific processing times for your cases. Although I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer specifically. So if you'd like to engage me and my firm to help you with your immigration case, we're happy to do that. But you will need to become a client, as I don't give any legal advice on the lives or in the DMs and the messages. But you can certainly reach out to me through the link in my bio on the platform. We are currently live in the Facebook page and the private Facebook group, YouTube, as well as TikTok. As you know, I'm managing attorney of Williams Immigration, and that's all the firm does is immigration. So we work with businesses, entrepreneurs, and we also work with family members. So tonight I want to talk about what happens when you marry someone that's not a U.S. citizen. So really, really broad what that process looks like. Let's say you're a U.S. citizen, you're in the United States. Your spouse can be in the United States or outside of the United States. The first thing we're going to do is, when you work with us, we're going to send questionnaires out to both of you, the U.S. citizen and the non-U.S. citizen, no matter where you all live. We're going to get all that information back. Then we're going to take a look at it and see if we see any red flags. Then we're going to talk to you about it. And the process is, the first application really shows the Immigration Service that you two have married, that you are in a real marriage, you are not in a fake marriage, that you did not marry just to get a green card, and that, when the day you got married, that y'all really intended to stay married, right? Like that's kind of the point of it. And that's what immigration wants to see. And again, I have a document list that I send out to my clients. It is my preferred document list of everything that I would love to see in a case. No client has ever given me everything on my document list, and that's okay. We still get cases approved. But we go about providing documentation to the Immigration Service to show that this is a valid marriage and that it's a real marriage. Next up, there's a second application that is done. If the immigrant is in the United States, we will also, with the second application, file work authorization and travel permission. That is so that the immigrant can leave the U.S. and come back and continue their green card application. Yeah, I still have this cough, so I do apologize. The second application, the adjustment of status application. Sometimes, depending on what the relationship is, if it's a U.S. citizen to a spouse, we can file those two applications together. But it is important to note the Immigration Service, when they are processing and adjudicating an application, they will always process the I-130 first. Second, they will process the adjustment of status. They will, however, if you file those applications all together, they will, however, take out the adjustment, the work authorization and the travel permission, and they will process those separately. So you should get those first, long before your applications are generally approved. Keep in mind, if you are in the United States right now, the Immigration Service is trying to get through their backlog. So if we present good documents and a good case, and the Immigration Service thinks it's a good, clean case, they will approve without an interview. If they think an interview is warranted, you will get an interview notice after we file these applications, and then you and your spouse will go into the local office. You will have an interview, conversation with an immigration officer. Assuming everything goes well, your application gets approved. A while after that, you will get a green card in the mail. If your spouse is outside of the United States, We are, after that first application is approved, we are then working with the consulate through the National Visa Center to send them more documents, essentially the documents that we send in that second application to USCIS if you were in the United States. And then we work with the NVC, we get all those documents in. Then we get your interview scheduled at the consulate. They tell us what that interview date is. Both processes require a medical exam to be done for that second application in the States, or when you are at the consulate. When you go into the consulate, it is just you, the immigrant. Your spouse is not there. Your spouse can certainly be in country, but they are not allowed into the consulate. That's for space concerns. That is for security concerns. That is just how the process is. You can certainly be at the coffee shop around the corner in country, sending them good vibes, cheering them on, but you are not part of that actual interview, and you cannot wait in the building in the consulate. So just keep that in mind. If you are married less than 2 years when your green card is approved or when your immigrant visa is approved, you will become what's called a conditional permanent resident. Okay? That means your green card is only going to be valid for 2 years. If it's only valid for 2 years, towards the end of that 2 years, 90 days prior to that 2-year expiration, we need to file what's called removal of conditions. So you're essentially converting your temporary green card, which is your conditional green card, to a true permanent resident status. That removal of conditions application essentially shows the Immigration Service that y'all are still married, y'all are still together, you're still doing your thing, you're still hanging out, you're still having a good time together, or maybe you're not having a good time together, but you're still together, right? If at that point you're in the U.S., you are, you then go in for your interview with that removal of condition application. If that application is approved, you then shortly after that get a green card in the mail. The huge and crucial difference with that green card is that green card is valid for 10 years. No longer valid for 2 years, valid for 10 years. So then every 10 years, you just need to essentially ask the Immigration Service to send you a new card. But what you don't have to do is prove that your marriage is still valid and all of that every 10 years. It's just really requesting a new card. If you remain married to that person, you can then apply for U.S. citizenship much quicker. If you're married to a U.S. citizen, you need to show that you are a lawful permanent resident for 3 years. Well, the great news about that is that your time as a conditional permanent resident counts. So really, a year after you receive your permanent residence, when you remove the conditions, most people are then eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship. So if that is your ultimate goal, you and your spouse decide that's your ultimate goal, that's a way to make that happen. So that's kind of what I wanted. I just kind of wanted to lay out that process for y'all. I get a ton of questions about that. So I wanted to lay that out for you. And y'all know I'm happy to answer questions. And y'all know when I answer questions, I'm also happy to tell you things that my firm does not do. I'm not going to guess at what the answer is. Certainly, if it's a visa process or visa category that I don't handle, I am more than confident in my abilities and to tell you that that's not something I handle. Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of scrolling here. I do this every night. I do not have my glasses on, so I cannot see the screen a lot. Okay. Ooh, much better. Look at that. All right, what do we have? How long is consular processing taking now? Consular processing, first of all, depends on the consulate that you're in. Depends on the consulate that you're in. So I always start off with, I don't know all the processing times, right? I don't. Processing times, I say this every night. I love saying it to you guys because I want you guys to really understand this. Processing times depend on the type of application that you filed it and where you have filed it. So I don't know what, consular processing, which consulate, it kind of depends. Every time a client asks me that, I look it up every single time. In that moment is when I look it up. We've got a question over on YouTube. Can I ask questions regarding the EB3 program? You absolutely can. My firm handles employment-based cases as well as family-based cases. So Lucas, you are welcome to pop that question in the chat, and I will get to you. Let's see here. I can tell you that I have seen some of my consular processing times, also when speaking with some colleagues, go a teeny bit quicker than they have been going. So that's always a plus. Part of that, I think, is because the Department of State as well as the Immigration Service, and we know Department of State oversees all of our consulates worldwide, our consulates and our embassies. They have a policy now where some folks can bypass the interview. So that has freed up officer time and with which to go through and process some of these applications. So I have seen things moving a little bit quicker, although frankly, it's never, ever, ever going to be quick enough for my clients, which I totally understand. Okay, if you lost your approval notice in the mail and you request it again, will the case be affected? I'm not sure I understand your question. If you lost your approval notice, you can always go back and ask the Immigration Service to send you, another notice. If you're sure that it was approved, that's the other thing. So you can always check online. You can use your receipt number. You can check online and get sort of the basic status. It's not going to give you in-depth anything online, but it will give you the basic status. So if you have lost it, you haven't received it, you can put in a request online. Every so often that happens, and we definitely do that for our clients. We'll go through and we'll just reach out to the Immigration Service and say, hey, we never got this. And then they'll check their records, they'll check their mailing records, and they will generally send us another one. So that's always helpful. Let me see what else we got here. Oh, y'all, it skipped to the end, so I know it missed some folks. If I missed it went all the way to the end, you guys. So if I'm missing some questions, you might have to retype them. And for Lucas, I don't see your question yet, but I do have YouTube up in front of me as well. That is one of the places we are live, so you're welcome to pop your question in. What else do we have? Is 8 months too long for an EAD receipt notice? Category C9 for VAWA. I don't know because I don't handle VAWA cases in my firm. So I don't know off the top of my head how long receipt notices are taking for VAWA. In some cases, receipt notices are taking a little bit. I don't know if VAWA is one of those because I don't handle VAWA cases. So unfortunately, I'm not really able to give you any sort of definitive answer on anything with VAWA. But I would recommend that you reach out to an attorney that handles VAWA cases. That is something that they can guide you on. Can you please say when you receive the approval notice for EAD, how soon after do you get the card? Typically, I'm seeing people get their cards within about 2 weeks. Certainly some take longer, some are shorter, but kind of about a 2-week time frame to get your physical card in the mail. Next question I see is what questions are asked during the interview? So assuming that we're talking about the marriage-based interview, questions are different with every single solitary officer out there in USCIS. The purpose of the questions is for the officer to dig into your relationship, dig into your marriage, and see if that marriage is legit and real and a bona fide marriage. The purpose is to make sure that that marriage is not a scam marriage. The purpose of that interview is to make sure that you didn't get married just to get a green card. So the officer can ask a ton of questions. They can ask questions along the lines of, where did you meet? Who do y'all hang out with? They can ask, I had one officer ask for the names of any siblings of their spouse, and where those siblings currently live. They can ask a whole host of questions. I've had officers ask, walk me through your house, from the front door all the way, to the back of the house. Walk me through your house and tell me what you see. So, if you have a real marriage where y'all are living together, most of these questions should not be a big deal. I will say, however, I have seen couples who get super nervous during interviews, or one person in the couple is just in general way more observant at things, and the other person in the relationship just, they just kind of go along. They have no idea what's going on, all that good kind of stuff, right? If you are the person in your relationship, like me, who doesn't know dates, like I don't know dates. I don't know dates. I'm horrible with anniversaries. Like, I'm horrible with all the things. With all the things surrounding a date, I am horrible. If that is you and you have an interview coming up, figure out what these dates are, y'all. This is just generally how it shifts out. The men typically tend to be the worst when it comes to the dates. And when I do mock interviews for my clients, I tell them, you cannot be messing up your anniversary date, because not only are you going to have to deal with the immigration officer and what that means, you're going to deal with your spouse when you get home. So if you are that person that is not into dates, figure it out, right? Just get it together. And while it may seem unfair, that is just how it is. But the interview questions are really to get at, what does your relationship look like? What are y'all doing? What do y'all do in your free time? That kind of thing. When I go to interviews, I take almost verbatim notes, especially on the questions. So I have a huge question bank that I pull from when I do mock interviews for my clients. My firm also offers mock interviews for people where we haven't prepared their entire application, but they're nervous about their interview, and they just kind of want to know what to expect and go through a mock interview. So my firm does that as well. But honestly, the questions are designed to figure out if you all are really living in a real marriage. So I hope that's helpful. Over to YouTube. Do you know the processing times for I-485s? I applied I-485 regard to Table B following the visa bulletin. Do I have to wait for the priority date on Table A to get approved for I-485? So, Lucas, I think you're new to us, which is great. So welcome. I don't know any of the processing times off the top of my head. The processing times will always depend on the type of case you file and where you file it. And so I also don't look them up while I'm on live with you guys. Let's see here. So I applied for 45, Table B. Do I have to wait for the priority date on Table A? I think what you are asking, I'm going to kind of go out on a little bit of a limb here, is the filing date versus the kind of processing date. If you're in the US, if USCIS is following the filing date, the date which they allow you to file your application, you file your application. The best thing about that is your application is filed. Oftentimes, especially for at least my firm's EB3 cases, we file work authorization and travel permission with that 45. So the best part about being able to file is that the Immigration Service will process your EAD and your advanced parole. They will wait until your priority date is current, though, in order to start processing your 485. So that's something that you start processing your adjustment of status application. So that's something that you want to be aware of. What I would recommend that you do is have a conversation with your employer. If you have access to the lawyer that is representing your employer, I would say definitely get them to clarify that for you. And it looks like you've already filed, so you may already have your EAD and your advanced parole. If you are in a situation where maybe you don't have access to that lawyer and you want to just have a consultation to go through some really maybe specific questions that you have, you are welcome to book a consult with my office. I get those kinds of consultations every so often. But truly, since you have already filed, since it is an EB3 case, the best source of your information is going to be the attorney who is currently working on your case. They are knee deep into your process if you have filed your 45. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see here. What do we got here? Questions during the interview. We went over that. This scrolls so fast, y'all, and I'm a slow scroller, I admit it. After the I-45 is approved, what happens next? So your I-45 gets approved. If your green card comes with a 2-year expiration, that means you're a conditional permanent resident, and that means that you then, at the end of that 2 years, 90 days prior, need to file what's called a removal of condition application. That shows the Immigration Service that y'all are still married, still living blissfully, or maybe not living so blissfully, but still together and working through it, because y'all marriage is hard. And then assuming everything goes great, they approve your removal of conditions, and then you get a 10-year green card. If your I-45 is approved and your green card comes in the mail and your green card is valid for 10 years, then there's nothing you need to do. You are now a full green card holder with a card that's valid for 10 years. So in 10 years before that card expires, you reach out to the Immigration Service, you file some more paperwork, and you ask them for another 10-year card. In the interim, if somewhere in there you would like to apply for U.S. citizenship, if you are still married to your U.S. citizen spouse, you can do that typically a year after you get your 10-year card, assuming that you removed the conditions and you had the 2-year card first. If you get the straight 10-year card and you remain married to your U.S. citizen spouse, then you've got to wait 3 years. If for some reason y'all divorce, then you've got to wait 5 years to apply for citizenship. So it really depends. What you do once you get your green card in the mail depends on how long your green card is valid. Okay. How long does it take to get an approval for work permit for parents in the States? Parents of a U.S. citizen are considered immediate relatives, so you can file all your applications at once, including your work authorization and travel permit. Those I kind of know how long those are taking. Those might take about a year. the height of sort of their backlog, they were taking a year. They're going a little bit quicker now. But again, I'd have to see which office is processing that case. And then, we can go online and look that up for you. Let's see. How long no, we just did that one. When do I receive work permit? After fingerprints. Yes, if you are required to take biometrics, they will take the biometrics first, which is a temprint and usually a photograph. They will run your background checks based on the temprint and the photograph. And they'll run background checks nationally and internationally, assuming there are no issues with that, and assuming you are eligible to get the work permit, then they will process your work permit and send that to you. Again, I don't, it may take 10 months-ish to get a work permit. But yes, the work permit definitely comes after the biometrics, if you require biometrics. Some folks have been in contact with the Immigration Service previously and had their biometrics previously taken for another application. In those cases, sometimes the Immigration Service will not do another round of biometrics. That is all in an attempt for them to work through their backlogs. But y'all, I'm telling you, at some point when they feel like they have reached the end of the backlog and they are just back to sort of the normal processing times, all of these concessions that they're giving us are going to end. So if you are waiting right now to file, I would say honestly stop waiting, especially if you're filing for a relative. If there's a strategic reason, a legal reason why you might be waiting, I get that. But if you're just waiting to wait, I would stop that, because we're getting some family-based applications processed quicker than I have seen in quite some time. Let me see here. I think. Okay, I think you put that question in a couple times because I'm a slow scroller, so I appreciate that. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. Any news in Manila? I don't know what you mean by that. So if you can break that question down a teeny bit more for me. No idea what's going on in Manila. I don't know what you mean. My I-131 was denied today. I am sorry to hear about that. What do you think about the EAD? What do you think? But the EAD was approved. So the I-131, for people that may not know, is the advanced parole. That is travel permission. I try really hard to remember not to use sort of legalese and legal jargon. Sometimes I forget. So so if I say something that you don't understand, please ask me, because these lives are really for you. So if your I-131 was denied, they have to tell you why it was denied. That's number one. So I don't know if you know it was denied because you checked online and you saw that it was denied, or it was denied because you received the denial notice in the mail. If it was that you checked online and you haven't received the notice in the mail telling you why it was denied, I would say wait until you get the notice in the mail, and they, it'll tell you why it was denied. And then depending on why it was denied really depends on where you go from there in terms of your travel permission or your advance parole. So, if you have the notice in the mail, or when you get the notice in the mail and you want to do a consultation, click the link in the bio. And then during that consultation, I will absolutely take a look at the denial notice itself, and sort of decode it and explain it to you. And then we can talk about, where you go from there. And folks, I do that a lot. Folks will get a request for additional evidence on a case that they may have filed themselves. They may get a notice of intent to deny on a case that they filed themselves. I do consultations to take a look at those for people to see if I can help them understand the notice, understand what the Immigration Service is looking for. And then I certainly do take on some of those folks as clients, and we work together to sort through that notice. So just because you filed the case on your own doesn't mean that you then cannot start working with me to see if we can unravel what has happened in your case. Someone said, "I love your bless." I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. So I got approved for the K1. Congratulations from USCIS. So that's great news. And now it's in Manila, Philippines, and the case is ready. So I think your question is, what does that mean? Okay, so K1 from USCIS is approved. Next step is you'll have to go into the consulate, have essentially a visa appointment, an interview, and if everything goes great, they will issue you a K1 visa in your passport, and then you can enter the US. Once you enter the US, you then have to file an adjustment of status, work authorization and travel permission applications after you get married, and then you're on your way. But that is essentially what happens. I'm glad that you brought up K1s. I believe I talked about this a little bit last night, but I want to mention it again. The Immigration Service is working on a very, very small pilot program out of the Dublin embassy in Ireland. And that program they're using K1s, and the pilot program is for digital visa documents. So if that pilot works well, hopefully they will then start rolling out digital visas for other classifications and with other consulates. So you're in Manila, so you will still get the usual, like the big old stamp that appears in your passport. It takes up a full page. But if someone is on here and they're applying for a K1 and they're applying through Dublin, they may be part of that pilot program. So just keep that in mind. That's something that I think will be coming down the pike a little bit once they finish that pilot. And hopefully that should be a way to free up time and maybe get more applications processed. What else do we got here? Okay, someone says I saw it online, and I think that goes back to, yes, that goes back to your I-131 was denied. So if you saw it online, you're going to have to wait till you get the actual notice in the mail. They will send you a notice in the mail. That notice will tell you exactly why they denied it. If you're not quite sure where to go, what to do next once you get that denial in the mail, you can certainly keep following me, like my profile, and then when you get that in the mail, which should come fairly soon since it's already online, and at that point you can schedule a consultation and we can go over that and see why, one, why they denied it, and then two, where you can go from there. All right. How long does it take to receive a green card after the I-130 and 45 are approved? Notice showing in USCIS account. It should only take a couple of weeks. It should take a couple of weeks. If everything is showing as approved, it should honestly take a couple of weeks. Now, there are always glitches in the matrix. I like to tell my clients there's always going to be a glitch in the matrix. So sometimes it's going to take longer, right? Sometimes it's just going to take longer. But if it's showing approved in the system, you are ahead of like 1,001 people. So it should only take a couple of weeks. Fingers crossed. I will say this: when you get your card in the mail, check it. Check every single line on that card and make sure all of the information is accurate. Because sometimes the information is not so accurate, and then you got to go reach back out to them and see if they can correct it. But hopefully you'll get it in a couple of weeks. So congratulations on that being approved. June 21st priority date, October 2022, documentarily qualified, which is what DQ means, y'all. India for F2A. Do you know how much more time? No, I do not. I don't know processing times like that off the top of my head. For all of my clients, for that exact question, I have to look them up every single time. Processing times are fluid, y'all. So, yeah, unfortunately, I just don't know. I always start off my live saying that I don't know what the individual processing times are. So if that's sort of a lengthier conversation that you want to have with me, I'm certainly happy to have it. We just have to do that as part of a consultation, because usually there are more questions surrounding the processing time, which I'm more than happy to answer and help you dig into. How long after USCIS approves your I-130 before they approve your 45? That is a fantastic question. And I usually don't say this on lives, but it depends, right? It depends on which family-based preference category you are in, whether or not your I-45 has already been filed, what the priority date is. So a lot of things go into your I-45 being approved. Immigration Service generally sort of chugs along and they process the I-130, right? They get what's on their desk, they process it, they move it along. The I-45 is a whole different animal. If you are in one of the preference categories, then you've got to wait for your priority date to be current, right? If priority dates move forwards and backwards every single month. So if they got to you 1 month, if they got your application 1 month and it was on someone's desk, but then they didn't get to it, and then the numbers retrogress, meaning they move backwards for the next month, and you're not part of that, that means your priority date's not current, then your file's going to go back on a shelf. You're going to have to wait longer. So it is sort of a mathematical equation, quite honestly. And that is because only a certain number of green cards can be issued every single year. So they are constantly checking the numbers to make sure that they are not over issuing green cards. And they're also checking the numbers to try and ensure that people from all over the world get an opportunity to get their green card approved. So you'll see that some countries have more individuals that are applying for the green card. So those countries typically have a longer wait time than countries that don't have as many people applying. So if your I-130 has already been approved and your I-45 is already filed, let's say you're an immediate relative, typically your I-45 should be approved shortly thereafter. But again, it depends on which office is processing your application. So processing times are kind of a beast to wrap your head around sometimes. So, if you have more questions kind of surrounding your processing time that you're trying to figure out, you are welcome to schedule a consultation and we can talk about that. Let's see here. U.S. citizen, let's see here. U.S. citizen step-parent files for stepchild under 21. Children are already in the U.S., but SP, sponsor, maybe? Is that what we mean by SP? Hold the green card. Tell me what we mean by SP. I want to make sure I'm fully understanding your question, and then I will scroll back up. Let's see here. Okay. Tell me what SP means. While you do that, I'm going to flip on over back to YouTube. How long does it take USCIS to approve a 751 based on cruelty with all needed proof submitted? I don't know. I'm not sure if you were with us at the beginning. I always say that I don't know all the processing times off the top of my head. So processing times depend on what kind of application and which office is processing that application. So I don't know, to be very honest with you. And what is the possibility that it gets approved without an interview? I haven't seen, I'm trying to think back to my own clients. It has been a while since I have had a 751, one of my clients in my practice, approved without an interview. So can it happen? Absolutely. The possibility of getting your particular case approved without an interview, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen what was filed. But in general, yes, I have seen 751s approved without an interview. So that is absolutely a possibility. So, that just goes to what the officer, excuse me, what the officer thinks about the case. And we were talking previously, I'm not sure that you were on. The Immigration Service right now for family-based cases, if it looks like a good, clean, solid case based on the documents that have been provided, they are using their discretion. And folks, it is 110% in their discretion to approve without an interview. They have this policy in place right now because they're trying to work through their backlog. So, yes, it can be approved without an interview. Will yours get approved without an interview? Unfortunately, I don't know. I wish I did know. I wish I had a crystal ball for all of y'all, but I don't. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see what we got. Back over here. Oh, okay. Asylum sent in medical for green card after RFE, end of July, and still waiting. The wait is agony. Yes. Waiting on immigration is hard. Waiting on immigration sucks. Waiting on immigration is terrible. So I totally get that. It is hard for me as an attorney who wants, my clients to get their approvals and go on. It's hard. It's hard. And it's not pleasant. So in terms of your medical for your green card after RFE, yeah, you could absolutely still be waiting. Now, you could be waiting based on just the office where your case is filed and how quickly or not so quickly that office is processing. And so that's something that you always want to take into consideration. Okay, so SP is step parent. All right, hold on. U.S. citizen step parent filed for step children under 21. Child are already in the U.S., but step parent holds a green card. I'm assuming you're asking for processing times, and the short answer is I don't know. I have no idea. It'll depend on which office has that application. So if you have your receipt notice, you can tell from your receipt notice which office has the application. If your file has been transferred from one office to another office, the Immigration Service sends you a transfer notice telling you that your application has been transferred to another office. Family-based cases as well as employment-based cases get transferred from one office to another. Typically when this happens, it is not a bad thing. I get this question often. It is simply a matter of the Immigration Service trying to move their workload around so that they can get cases adjudicated quicker. So just keep that in mind. So the notices that they send you in the mail really do have a bunch of information on them. You just kind of have to know how to decode that information. Let me see here. Yes, the wait is agony, but you said worth the wait, though, and doing everything legally. That is the key. You do not want to get that knock in the door in the middle of the night because you didn't do things properly, especially when you are, sending in your documents or what have you. My green card expired in 2017. How can I renew it? You reach out to the Immigration Service, depending on if it was a 2-year card or a 10-year card. If it was a 2-year card, you'll need to remove the conditions on that 2-year card. If it was a 10-year card, then you can simply request for them to send you a new card. If you want to go into super specifics about your situation, you are welcome to schedule a consultation using the link in the bio, and we can have a more in-depth conversation about what kind of card you had and what your next steps need to be. All right, y'all, I see a couple more questions. I have not had my dinner yet. So y'all know I usually get on here just before dinner. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and then I'm going to head out to dinner. Before I do that, let me check my calendar real quick, because I think I will be back live again tomorrow, sometime between 5:30 and 6 p.m. again, Eastern time. So for sure, if I don't get your question today, you can certainly hop back on here tomorrow, and we can chat. Let me see here. How long does it take to get your card after approval of a 485? It should only take a couple of weeks, but again, sometimes it will take longer. Sometimes it will take much shorter, but I tell people on average about 2 weeks. But don't get freaked out if it takes longer. Let's see here. Let me see here. Let me see here. Receive your green card. Already got through and so I don't understand the question. It's not the processing time. The children already get through. Remnant to US. So I don't understand the question. I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. I maybe kind of rephrase it, or you can save it till tomorrow and we can kind of tackle that one first. Do I have to update my Social Security and driver's license once I get a green card? So this will be the last question that I handle tonight, you guys. Once you get your green card, typically you can go to the Social Security office, and they will check and see if they need to give you a new one. But chances are they probably won't. It still will need to have language on it saying only valid with DHS work authorization approval. It's got some language on it like that. Your driver's license in most jurisdictions where my clients are, your driver's license will expire when your lawful stay in the US expires. So a lot of times my clients need to go once their green card has been approved and they're rolling from another status to their lawful permanent resident. Their green card is set to expire when their current status expires. So they will need to go and take their green card and get a new, get an updated driver's license that will have, they'll renew it and give a different date on it. Excuse me, a different expiration date. So like I said, that was the last question I'm going to answer tonight, y'all. It has been a good time as always. I'm going to go make some dinner and have some tea to help my throat. I'll be back here tomorrow, probably between 5:30 and 6. maybe a little bit later. Don't quite hold me to that. But yeah, somewhere between 5:30 and 6 is my goal. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Have a great evening. Have an even more wonderful tomorrow. Bye, y'all. It's been fun.